Hello, everyone, and welcome to Global Conversations, a soul professional series where curiosity leads, consciousness expands, and science meets soul. I'm Camille Miller, joined by my co-host, Adam Guzman Poole and Adam Dickinson. Together, we explore the questions humanity is finally ready to ask, bridging worlds, perspectives, and ways of knowing. We're not here to provide answers. We're here to open portals to bigger conversations. Today, we have a big conversation, and we are honored to welcome Trish Meekins to our show. Trish is a registered master of social work with more than 30 years' experience as a counselor, educator, and facilitator across Ontario. Her therapeutic work is deeply holistic, addressing emotional, spiritual, intellectual, and physical dimensions of healing. Trish bridges her Indigenous knowledge with Western clinical practices. She teaches First Nation history, offers Indigenous cross-cultural awareness training, and supports organizations committed to truth and reconciliation. Trish, welcome to our show. I am so excited to have you here today with us.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's
You,
pretty exciting. It's a topic I enjoy.
yeah. And
Mhm.
I will start by saying Trish and I met oddly in Costa Rica
Yes.
at a retreat in Costa Rica. And you came with your husband, but you also I facilitated a healing session there. I don't know what you called it, but I absolutely loved it. And I know since then we've talked a few times, but I thought you would be a wonderful guest. This is episode 5 for all of our listeners. And if you haven't listened to 1 through 4, I invite you to go back and listen to those. But I'm so excited to have you on today and just talk about your science bridging your indigenous and spiritual work because I know that you are such a lovely dovetailing of both. So, first, I want to start off with your social work. And I know that you've been practicing for over 30 years as a social worker. And I'm interested in what originally drew you to this field. And then we're going to talk about your holistic therapy. But I should first ask you to introduce yourself a little bit because I know you do that in a special
Absolutely.
way.
Yeah, so I do introduce myself in the language usually whenever I do any kind of work really because I've already done my little smudge here, but it's to signal to the spirits or ancestors or whoever that I'm working. So Ani Bojo Nakshina Nushkas Kwedesh Nakas Mekanak and Ajichak and Dodam Nea Shingnaming Donjaba. And I actually get to say I live in Nea Shingnaming now. So I have moved from Owen Sound, which is about an hour north of where I was in the big metropolis of Owen Sound, which is about 20,000 people or so. Yeah, so I'm in my home community now. So it's really, really nice. I'm in the place where I was born. So I do feel like I've absolutely had a coming home.
Mm,
Yeah, so I
beautiful.
am from the Chippewas of Nawash, unceded First Nation. That is I guess, my community's name. But we do come from the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which is the ancestral lands of this area. But there's more to talk about in terms of that. The whole idea, I think, of putting us all in different communities, which are now well, we were always nations. We were nations
Mhm.
long before the settlers came, of course, but putting us into smaller communities separates the nation.
Ah,
So, just like the nuclear family, uh, being introduced at the same time as the social work profession about 60 years ago, and about 1950 or so, 1960 is when the social worker profession came out. And yeah, and we reduced our families to nuclear families, I believe, for taking away the support, the spiritual guidance. There's so much involved in a family lifespan from birth until death that we need all generations to make that individual whole. So
wow.
that's kind of where I come from in terms of this segregation. And it's fairly new. I would say that segregation amongst people is fairly new. I would even say that, like listening to my grandfather, like even in his time, he totally remembers where we lived alongside one another and we relied on each other for survival. So this whole idea of being separated is a new concept.
That makes so much sense now that I'm hearing it from you. Of course, it makes
Mhm.
sense, but
Mhm.
also just hearing that I mean, small communities is the way I want to say most of us grow up because it was before the internet. We did grow up in societies or small communities where everyone knew each other.
Yeah.
So that kind of started to break up. And I would
We still
assume that
do in
your
our community.
nation's, yeah,
Yeah. Like we still do here, but even say, for example, I never thought I would actually move from Owen Sound because that was our original village area for Nawash, for my people in particular. So after the
yeah,
War of 1812, pretty much, you know, that's where my people reside. Well, since time immemorial, really, but that was a concentrated area. And we were moved out of there in 1857. So I would say probably shortly after that is the whole idea of being separated.
interesting. So,
Yeah.
do you live um on a reservation itself with your people?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And everybody
And there's
knows each other. Like
okay.
we still know each other. Everybody's still a fairly small community here. So in our communities and actually in other First Nation communities,
Okay.
we will know a lot of people, of course. It's a small world, lots of relatives and relations, and so we still have that, thankfully.
Wonderful.
Mm,
Hmm.
mm,
Okay. So I want to start, we're going to talk a lot about that side of you, but I want to
Hmm.
start with the science start of you. So for 30 years, you've also been a social worker
Yeah,
off the reservation, I should say. You work
yeah,
with all types of people. That's what I think is
yeah,
important. What first
absolutely.
drew you to that field?
My home community is what drew me to that field. I think what drew me to that field primarily was just to see the suffering that was happening in our communities
Yeah,
because we're still dealing with the symptoms and impacts of colonization and a genocide, really, of our people here, where we were not, it was illegal to practice our ways until 1952, so it was through, you know, my relationships with my peers as a teenager, as well as the traumas that I got to experience being a First Nation person, as we all do. But when I really saw that, to me, I was like, we're saving kids' lives. Like that was my thing. It was like we're saving kids' lives. Like suicide rates amongst our people are absolutely ludicrous. And when I was a young person, suicide rates in our communities were so high. Like 11 young children. You know what I mean? Like in a community,
I
so
didn't know
for
that.
me, I was like, we
Wow.
need to do something for our youth. And so actually I got into child and youth counseling. That's how I initially began, was with children and youth. And so that was a good place to start because I wanted to take all the kids home, of course. And and I learned very quickly that that wasn't an option. So since then, now I work from, like, I went from children to working with women to working with the whole spectrum of ages. Yeah.
mm. Can I jump in here,
Mhm.
Camille? Because I love the work you're doing, Trish. I have some background in child and youth work, and also uh, working in Indigenous communities too. So I know the pain, like that is just like so big. And I'd love to go back to this separation that you talked about, and you're talking about the separation and how um, that separation creates this this despair that you see a lot. I mean, we see this a lot I mean, a lot of the world is like suffering, and I feel like that comes from that disconnection. And
Absolutely.
ultimately, at the end, I mean, I know we wanted to go into the science first, but I think it's like it really comes from a disconnection from each other, and then also a disconnection from the sacred. like you talked about, like they took away all the traditions, they took away all the ceremonies, and then this is like what you get when you strip away everything that makes us essentially human, right? And I'd love to hear more about, your experience like in the social work field, like how how that disconnection creates that, you know.
What I think it's really come down to is a sense of belonging. So it's not only a separation, but it's a sense of belonging. And I would say like that's really what it boils down to, like if you don't feel you belong, where is your place? And as a small child, if you feel you don't belong, where is your place?
Mm.
And so when these families are dealing with the traumas of out and out massacres into residential schools, that finally closed down in 96, and then we have the 60s scoop, and then we have the millennium scoop. There were more of our children taken into care last year than there has ever been, even in residential school era times. So are we getting better? This sense of belonging is a really big one, and it does absolutely go back to our culture and our language because we had whole systems that were set up in terms of our culture being within the language so that we would never forget it. And if we don't know our language, we lose the essence of the culture. I should say we can lose the essence of the culture because my belief is, and I don't know if I'm frozen or not, but my belief is that we have memory within our blood. And it is that blood memory that is allowing for us to bring back the essence of those ceremonies. But yeah, without that, without having those ceremonies at all, um, we don't have a place to belong. Sorry.
Mm.
Yes, there's nowhere to belong. And so I think that that's a really big one. And especially when we think about children, because we need to build that foundation, right? So I always think in chakras. And so when I think of children, I think of that root chakra, and that root chakra has to be solid, has to be solid. It has to be the I am,
Mm.
no matter what. And so if we're not giving that to our babies and to our children, we're going to have, lost people. And this is what we see here. And, and I do believe that there is an agenda around that. I do believe that segregation is an agenda.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think it's hard to it's hard to contend with that belief. I definitely believe, you look around, there's definitely it's controlled genocide, right?
Hmm.
Intentional, right? So, but I'd love to hear more about so there's this pain, there's this wound, and I'd love to hear more about how you and your work serves to be that bridge to bring that belonging, to bring that love, and to bring that care so that children, women, and beyond feel that sense of safety and belonging.
Yeah, and I think that it's come from a lot of like going through my own trials and tribulations, of course. I've experienced a lot of different things, I guess, even in terms of maybe having a lot of freedom as a young person, not having that guidance. Um, Sorry, I should write your question down. I've lost my train of thought here. Can you repeat that again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. We'll see if I say it again right. But it was so how in your, we talking about this big pain that's being felt,
The
and
wound,
that
yep.
the wound and that this
Yeah.
lack of belonging. And in your own work as a social worker, and how do you find you bridge that? How do you bring
Yeah.
that peace, that love to that wound?
So this is really cool because it's simple, right? It's very, very simple. It's not a hard, complicated thing that people have to go through in order to heal their wounds. It is a matter of recognizing when you have a wound. And so usually if you're triggered in some way, that's a pretty good indication that there's a wound there somehow. So if something is stirring some kind of emotion within you that doesn't feel very good, that's likely a trigger. And so it is the emotional response to whatever that trigger was. So if we can remove the emotion from the situation, then it won't be such an impact on the person anymore. So, I noticed like in spiritual, like a lot of spiritual coaching, I guess, they say like, forget your past, like you don't need your past. That's not a part of who you are. It has made you who you are, but it's not a part of who you are. So I think that if we can, really scale down on the emotional response to things, you're good. You're good. Like I have had, clients who literally cry all day long, and it wasn't until I actually asked that person, like, do you really cry all day? Nobody ever asked them that before. Nobody ever asked them if they cried all day long before. So then they had to kind of get real with where they were coming from. So this is what I'm saying. So there's, of course, a variety of responses to trauma and wounding in regard to not belonging. But I believe that if you can be in contact with, that higher power, that source, that creator, then you will not feel that isolation. Because they say, you are never alone. You have a whole spirit team that walks with you. So you are never alone. But little children don't know that. And if little children aren't told that, you will grow into an adult not realizing that, And so this whole idea of removing that emotion and understanding that you have the first relationship that you should have is with your higher self or with creator or however you want, that's the most important relationship. All the rest of them, they don't matter. But we need others to survive in this world, and that is the hard truth. We do need others.
Adam,
Go
did
for
you?
it. No, no, no. I saw you. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, no, this is yeah,
Uh,
it's beautiful. Thank you
yeah.
for uh,
Trish, that really resonates with me right now, actually, a little bit. Before we got on the call, before you got on the call, I was talking to my co-host here about a personal situation, but I'm also kind of curious about your background and, the framing of healing. I also very much resonate with having a connection to your higher self. I practice an intuitive modality called the Akashic Records, but I also came from an FBI career background.
Oh,
So, and I'm just bringing this up because I'm kind of curious on your thoughts. Have you felt this is coming from me because I have a very unique situation.
yeah.
Have you ever felt like tension between sort of Western clinical frameworks and indigenous or spiritual approaches to healing? Uh,
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're totally different. They're absolutely different. And I do explain this, and I think what I did in Costa Rica, Camille, was the circle teachings, right?
I think
And the
so, because
medicine
it was
wheel.
a lot about, yeah, yeah, yeah. You were teaching more of
Hmm.
the indigenous
Yeah.
healing and sides of your worlds, and you were speaking the language and giving healing in that, which was incredible to experience.
Yeah. So when I say holistic, it is based on that medicine wheel as a framework. So that medicine wheel, and I'll show you, I'll draw it. It's not going to be very beautiful or anything, but that medicine wheel it's like this, eh? That is the framework. And so there are four parts of self, right?
Yeah,
And
just for people
what,
that are listening, it's a circle with four parts, just a
yeah,
pie with four
yeah.
parts. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And the way that the Western world works is, through how you're thinking and how you're behaving. And if you're not behaving properly or according to the norms in society, then you must not be thinking properly. And so, therefore, if you're not thinking properly, you must need medication to then act properly, to think properly and then to act properly. Right? Now, as a social worker, I don't prescribe medication. That would be something that a psychiatrist or psychologist or whoever would do, but that is medication to me is not the answer. Medication to me is an aid to dull down maybe the symptoms of those emotional triggers that we have. So the other whole half of that circle that's never really addressed is our spirit, which is a very, very important and should come first, is that spirit, and then the emotion. So when we never look at spirit and we never look at the emotions, how are we going to be able to look at ourselves as a whole being? Because we are all of those. If anything, we are those, the way that I look at it is that spirit is this massive orb that is around your body, and our bodies are inside of that orb. But that energy that's all around us, that's what allows us to think and move and do things. And so if we don't ever address our spirit, which is also our vision, and that's where we get our life mission here, because we all come here on a life mission, whether you believe me or not, we're all here on a mission. And maybe your mission is to not find your mission, so whatever that is, right? Like it's not up to me to decide. It's up to each individual to decide and figure out what their gifts are and share them with the world, right? Like it is not an option, it is your responsibility to take up your place within the circle. And that's why we did all those circle teachings, because even in this medicine wheel is a circle, and it's the circle of life, or we could look at it as that orb that is around our body. However you want to look at it, that circle represents so many things, but it is your job and it is your responsibility to take up your place within that circle.
So I totally get that. Do you, in your
Hmm.
work, do you use all of this in all of your work? Because I didn't
Absolutely.
know if like it's against HIPAA or how that works, or if you
Oh
even
no.
have that where you are. Do
Yeah,
y'all have
here it's
HIPAA?
called FIPPIDA.
Okay.
What it stands for, I don't know. But we do have it here. And so, like, I would say the differences are that I do talk to people about what feels good, what makes them feel good inside. And so then, to try to
Yeah.
allow people to understand what their spirit or their soul is. And that we do have a job to do here. And it is our job also to ensure that we find that emotional maturity, or however you want to look at that, emotional balance, to be able to face any situation and be able to manage your emotions is a key goal in life, I would say. So,
Yeah.
but we don't teach those children how to think. We don't teach them how to think for themselves, and that's how it's so easy to propagate fear amongst us all, because it's the fear that keeps us in line, right? So, but if everybody only knew that the fear was just as big as, say, blowing it away like that, that's how big that fear is. Hmm.
Mm. That's Trish, I'm just loving what you're saying, and let's if only we could all just
Yeah.
yeah. And well, I'm gonna ask you for well, I might ask you a couple of questions. One is like, how do you inspire people to blow it all away? Like getting them to that point. So that's one question. And the other
Hmm.
question I want to talk about the mix between actually, yeah, let's just go with that and then I'll ask you, I won't load you with too many at a time, but let's just follow that. How do you find that, you connect people to that power so that they can do that?
Absolutely. So I asked them, like, what do you dream about? What did you dream about? Have you ever had those dreams with no limitations? So if money wasn't an issue and if location wasn't an issue and, all these things that limit us, if there were no limitations, what would you love to do? And if you don't know what you love to do, then I want you to put yourself in the middle and write down every single thing that you love around you. And I mean like activities. I had no idea that I actually love reading cards. I just started doing this. Well, I've been doing it my whole life, but I mean officially YouTube channel
I watch
reading
you.
cards. Oh, you did. Thank you,
I
Camille.
watch you every day,
Ancestral
your card
Ascensions.
pulls.
Yes. And so I do these and I love them. And I love them. And I think that, even just from doing that simple thing, like as I said, I don't think I've lived in my home community for 30 years. And I just moved back home. And so I've been in this weird kind of place where I'm laying down my foundation again. And I moved out on my children, so my kids aren't even here. I mean, they're all adults now, but they're not here. And so I've been going through this weird kind of funk, and it was the cards. It was the cards that was like, I'm like, okay, at least that just makes me happy.
So
So just find the things that make you happy.
it sounds like
Mm,
it's helping people find their purpose,
mm.
right?
Absolutely.
That's what okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Being in service to others, and it doesn't matter what it is. You don't have to be a motivational speaker living down by the river, or you don't have to be, you know what I mean? You can be totally a gardener that's being in service to others. You could be a plumber that is being in service to others. Whatever you choose that makes you happy, that is being in service to others, you're good.
yeah, and I think that that comes into what you were talking about, taking responsibility for your role, and like when we realize that we're part of this circle. An elder of mine said we're all part of like everyone's got a pole in the teepee. So if you look at a teepee, every part needs to come together in order for it to work. So you
Right.
just realize that every one of us in this room, we have an important role that we're having in this conversation, and we're all part of it. And without each other, your thing falls apart. And it's beautiful that what you're saying, Trish, because it's like when we really stand in that of who we are, what we came here to do, it gives us the strength, the energy to move past all the obstacles and I love that. And I'd love to know what your Adam was pointing out to, like, do you have this conflict with the Western world and the Western medicine? And I'm curious, where is the bridge where it actually is working together? Because I really believe that we're in this like beautiful revolution where science and soul are coming together, where it doesn't necessarily need to be a separate thing. It has been for so long, and that's where the fight is. But I'd love to know your perspective on where's the harmony of where this is working together.
Yeah, so I did my formal education as a child and youth counselor, like Western, no integration of teachings or anything like that. I mean, I did that for myself because I wanted to come from that perspective. But then once I got into doing my degree in social work and then my master's in social work, both of those were done in the Anishinaabe field of study. So I had some really awesome teachers throughout that time in university. And we did all of our training in the holistic realm. So our classes were in circle. Whatever we happened to learn about, no doubt. We started every morning with our smudge. We started every morning with our prayer. We started every morning with 4 songs before we began our work. And I'll tell you, you learn holistically in that way as well. So it's not just about what you're thinking and what you're behaving or what you're kind of bringing in, and you write a story or you write a test on it, and or you write a little blurb about it and you're good to go. No, you get to really embody all of the teaching. And I think that because it is done in ceremony. And so, even with those programs, like they came to do like an evaluation, I guess, of that program because it is quite a bit different than the Western, you know, academia in terms of social work. And they said it is a much deeper learning because we are absolutely dealing with our spirit and that connection. as well as, living our lives authentically and integrating the teachings that we received as we went along. So it was really um, it was good. But where I got most of my learning, I guess, about where the differences are would be like, say, for example, in my way, the way that I would give somebody an example or help to show them through something would be, for example, in my life, I went through this, and this is what I did to, get over this. And that's not something that the Western world really does. They don't share their experiences. Now, I'm not bawling my eyes out and crying and saying, oh my gosh, this is what I went through, because, I think that's why the Western world does not want you to share your personal experiences in case you are going to break down or whatever. But for me, it was like, look at this is what I went through, and this is what I did to overcome that. And so, I remember the first time I was it was a group setting. I got everybody in a circle and I was co-facilitating with a non-Indigenous person. And I swear their mouth like literally dropped to the floor when I started to share a bit of my story so that I could help these women get through whatever they were going through. And I was so thankful for my manager who totally backed me up. She said, "No, this is the way that Trisha's people do things, and this is the way, and I think it's a really good way." And that was that. That was, so that was a really big noticeable one, I guess. But yeah, like just different things like in terms of licensing and whatnot that I'm not really allowed to do. I mean, we can absolutely address spirit, but there are other little guidelines that we have to be careful of.
Mm. Trish, if I might build on that, you're just getting pummeled with questions from all of us.
Yeah.
But something you also said, again, sort of resonates with me from my background, which is very much structured thinking, um, law enforcement background. And when I bring up the fact that I use an intuitive modality to guide myself and others, it's just is like, what? It's just sort of an awestruck moment, but I'm kind of curious on when what you said about sort of the misunderstandings between the Western world and indigenous knowledge. Is there's often certain themes that you find with Western systems that they misunderstand about indigenous knowledge or
Hmm.
concepts or some trends maybe?
Yeah, I do because I feel like I know that there's all different kinds of theories, and I by no means want to bash my peers at all because we all come to this work with the best intentions to help whoever we can and ourselves along the way. Absolutely. Um, I guess the different theories, I guess it's looking at it at a deficit base that somebody is coming in with a problem where I'm like, you just haven't found your inspiration yet. You just haven't found your true calling. You just haven't cleared away some of this crap from your eyes and from your shoulders and from whatever it is that you're carrying to find it. And so I do use modalities such as hypnosis, for example, works very, very well. I use EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which works very well as well. I use some of the practices that we were taught, just releasing that energy from the body when you're feeling triggered, shaking your arms, shaking your legs, release, get that out of you. So there is a really nice balance with that. Um, I think that the restrictions come when what insurance companies want to pay for. So it's always just straight up talk therapy, on the bill. Always straight up talk therapy. Yes, we can use these modalities, but we can't be specific. And, with that being said, I would actually say that the college has been really quite good. Like our licensing body, they're pretty good in terms of that. It is when government restrictions on how we as a people should heal. Not
Very
cool.
good.
Hmm.
Do you have more, Adam? Or
Yeah, kind of follow up if
go
that's
ahead.
okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so Trish, when you're helping folks, how do you evaluate which direction to go with them? Is it mind, body, spirit, or emotional? Is there a way that you find in terms of that holistic approach uh to figure that out? Like what's the best first step? I mean, just for example, with me, I often try to go with spirit first, just so it sort of raises the vibration. But I'm just curious, since you have so many lovely tools that you're in your toolkit, how do you approach it?
Spirit first, absolutely spirit first. You are absolutely right because that's your vision. That's where somewhere in the mind's eye you see this vision of you doing whatever is so inspiring to you that you just love. Whatever that thing is, like so that vision, that's your spirit saying, "Hey, this is what you're here to do." So absolutely spirit led. I'm actually, so my YouTube channel right now is called Ancestral Ascensions, that nobody can say 5 times fast or spell even. So so I think I'm going to change it to spirit led or spirit leader or something like that. So right now it's still ancestral ascensions until I can figure out this recording stuff. That's been my day. But yeah, it is about the spirit first, spirit always coming first. Absolutely.
I love that.
Mhm.
Trish, before we go, I also want to talk a little bit so our listeners also know that you do a lot of leadership work and cross-cultural work.
Absolutely, yeah.
And um, can you, well, I'm just going to leave it open-ended. Can you just tell us a little bit about that work? Because one of the
Yeah.
reasons we started this called Global Conversations is because
Mhm.
we're working in a global society. Now that's what we're going to. And it's a way of
Absolutely.
honoring different cultures and how do we be fair to everyone. So we want to have some of those conversations, which might be a whole different show. But I'd love for you just to talk about your work a little bit and, you know, what we all need to know and what you teach.
Absolutely, yeah. So I have my own practice, and so I do provide therapy for people if they're interested. And absolutely, it's always holistic. I'm always trying to get to what it is this person's life purpose is. And if there are blockages in the way, let's try to move some of those blockages. But so that's through my counseling practice at Nikanagina Counseling and Learning Center. And it is right now it's virtual. So that's cool that it's global because we can absolutely meet virtually. But my plan for myself and my husband, the reason why we moved home is to open a retreat center. And I want it based in
Mm.
Indigenous holistic modalities in terms of sweat lodge and in terms of, healing circles. But I also want healers from all over the world to come here and to
Ooh.
heal people in whatever capacity they would like, because my belief is this global unity. I do believe that we all have a piece of this pie and that we are to
Mhm.
fit together like this in unity and integration, even in terms of when I talk about those 7 chakras, seven is a spiritual number, 7 days of the week. You know what I mean? Like there's, we can see it in all different kinds of ways, 7 directions, 7 chakras, Um, there are so many similarities throughout all of these worldviews that we just need to bring them together and understand how they fit together. And then once we bring them together and understand how they fit together, then we can all be whole, whole beings.
Yeah, I think we're moving towards that. I mean, that's the whole not the whole point of the soul professional movement, but it's a big dovetailing of the movement is just being a good global citizen, right? To honor
Absolutely.
who everyone is and the role I guess humanity is even playing in
I'm
all of
so
this,
glad
right?
you
In
feel
cult,
that way,
yeah,
Camille.
yeah.
I think when you're in it and you're living it, you're like, yeah, that's where we're going. It's obvious. But to a lot of people, it is not obvious. A lot of people.
Uh,
And
well,
so we need to, as obvious as it seems to us, I'm so glad you're doing this podcast because absolutely people need to walk through the doorway, walk through this portal, as you're saying, walk
yeah.
into this higher timeline. So the best way to get a hold of me is trishmeekins.com. I do have a website. I'm also on Facebook. I have my own Trish Meekins. I have Nikanagana Counseling and Learning Center. And we also have a retail store that we also moved from Owen Sound up into my home community. And it's the only retail store that I know of here in the community. And we sell crystals and we sell medicines and we sell gifts of healing. It's called a gift shop for gifts of healing, and it's all my relations. We called it in English, and like I said, my practice is Nikanagana, which is the spiritual sense of all my relations in our language.
It's so beautiful. If I have one last question,
Mhm.
what is one thing you wish more people understood about your Indigenous healing or world or culture?
That I'm here for everyone. I'm not here just here for my own
I love
people.
that.
I am here to help raise the vibration of everyone to be able to unburden themselves so that they can live a lighter and freer, more inspiring life, you know?
Yeah, and I cannot wait to see your retreat center and what you're building. And I
Yes.
love that. I think it seems to me like a beautiful place to bring all of the cultural awareness together too, right? Part of the
Well,
community that we're creating. And yeah, go ahead.
we had this world conference here in our community when I was a teenager, and it was very, very inspiring to me. It was called the Four Winds Assembly, and we had spiritual leaders from all over the country who came here. And it was the biggest sunrise ceremony that I have ever been in.
And do you
Like,
think you'll be doing this again?
it was massive.
Because I'd like an invite.
I would love to have that come back again. Where we are located is called the heart of Turtle Island. Turtle Island in our creation story is North America and down into Central America. So that's the tail end. Like if you look
Hmm.
at it, it actually looks like a turtle. And where the Great Lakes are is the heart of Turtle Island. So we are right in the Great Lakes. We're on Georgian Bay and Lake Huron. And we are the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. But when I was a kid, I was told that we were actually that Saugeen derived from Zagidwin. In our language, that means love, which the heart of Turtle Island.
Goosebumps on that.
So I do believe it is a healing place here, and I
Oh,
do believe that this place can be a healing for everyone.
oh, beautiful. How many people are there?
In my community,
Yeah.
about seven, 800 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a little town. MG
Yeah, not
community.
really. I mean, there's Church Corner Community Center, that's downtown Cape Broker.
Okay.
Well, I was just gonna say, let's go. It sounds like let's
Yeah.
let's go
It
to the
is
It's
heart.
so
like I'm here
beautiful.
to
Come
a
on
road
over.
trip.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Trish, for being a
Mhm.
part of our global conversation series and showing up for episode 5. I loved this interview. I know it can't be easy for our guests to have 3 co-hosts that are bombarding you with questions.
That's awesome. I love having these kinds of conversations, and I'm very sad that it's already 1 hour gone by.
Yeah. When we
Mhm.
came up with the idea, it was more like we were all sitting having coffee together, like in someone's living room and just learning about each other. That's the
Hmm.
idea of having so many co-hosts that are, each of us are so different from each other, and which you could
Absolutely.
find out a lot about on episodes 1 through 3.
Well, I am going to check those out because I want to know more for sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation here today, and I like the idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mhm.
So, for our listeners, we want to thank you for joining us for this episode of Global Conversations, part of the Soul Professional Global Conversation series. Please hit subscribe wherever you are listening to right now. And if today's dialogue sparks something for you, we invite you to continue the conversation by subscribing, sharing this episode, or connecting with the Soul Professional community at soul, S-O-U-L, professional.com. This series is an open invitation to explore, question, and expand together. Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and stay connected. Thank you all. All right, we are bringing Trish back because she is a master card puller and she's going to pull a card for us. So
And
here,
we are going to
we're going to
use the
spotlight you.
Angels and Ancestors Guide Oracle cards by
I love the Oracle.
somebody Gray. Can't remember what
Somebody
his
great.
first name is.
Kyle Gray.
Kyle Gray, you got her. All right, here's our messages. We have, I need glasses. I didn't think we'd be reading anything while we were on here, but we have the spirit fox. So trust in your talents because times are changing. This is
Ooh.
exactly what we were just talking about, our talents, our new talents that we're all trying to uh, put out there for the world to see. This beautiful spirit fox. Oh, and we have mirror guardian. Take time to reflect.
Oh, that's a good one. Very nice. Beautiful.
Hmm.
She's looking in a mirror. She's doing mirror work.
Yeah, she's doing mirror work. Time to reflect. Absolutely. Well, that sort of summarized what we just talked about in the after party.
So maybe you can highlight. I'd love to hear, like as a reader, what would you say? We just had this big conversation, and then now we got this
Off
fox.
off camera.
Oh, and then even before,
And
so, and then we
before.
got
Yeah.
before, so then we had the fox. So tell us, what do you think
Absolutely.
the
You
spirits are
probably
trying
already
to tell
have
us?
messages
Yeah,
here, Adam. That's probably
yeah,
why you're asking me.
yeah.
Um, is trust in your talents because times are changing. And yes, we are going to need the talents of everyone to be able to do what we're going to be doing, right? Like we're raising the consciousness of the earth, and we have to have 33.33333 of the Earth's population to raise their vibration. So as these new generations are coming in, being born, they're bringing their talents with them, and the times are changing. We are in a time right now that we've never been in as
Mm,
humans on Earth. So we definitely need to have, we're in great time right now, a time
agreed.
that's never happened before. And
Hmm.
so, in regard to the mirror guardian, take time to reflect is, take that time to see what your triggers are. What are those triggers that you have? If you don't, and I will tell you this, and I will tell you this over and over and over again. I have, as a therapist, met and know people and have had relationships with them. And then the next thing you know, if you don't look after your triggers, you are going to have a very hard time. Life is as easy or as hard as you make it. So it's not as scary as it was the first time around. So please look after it. And I do believe as well that we should be able to heal ourselves in a gentle way, not in a harsh way.
Mm.
I, as a young person, when I first went into my healing journey at 18 years old, because I'd already had a son at 18, I, I better do some stuff here because obviously I'm a little not right. And so that's what I did. And I started to really work on that. And then that became, and it was always my passion to try to find out more and more and more about myself. So when we look at this mirror guardian and we look at what she's not actually even looking into a mirror. She's actually looking into the universe,
Mm.
which is that void within us. So hop on the void. That's how I do my meditation. I hop on the void.
Uh,
What I say to myself, we're getting in the void. So, and that's what I do. But, like, and maybe nobody's ever even talked about that kind of thing before, because until somebody started to talk to me about what actual like, are we thinking nothing? Are we thinking something? What is going on in our brain if we're meditating, right? Like, what's happening?
I am one of those people that could never meditate. And I actually just read a book and she
Hmm.
went through like this method. And I was like, oh, I could do all of those things. I didn't know that was the series to getting, it was like first she did like breath work. It's
Yeah.
a series called like Bless Me. So I always go through like
Hmm.
it's breath work and then lifting your vibration. I forget what the E is, probably elevate. And then it's surrender. And then it's summon. Is it summon? Surrender. I forget what the rest one is. I was going to say summon, but the M is merge. It's like you're calling forward your spirit team.
Hmm.
And I think the last one is, I don't know, hang on. I don't know. I don't remember what the
hold
last
on.
one,
Well,
but whatever it is from a book, but it
Yeah.
actually allowed me to do it because it's shift then surrender.
Oh,
Because
okay.
you
Shift.
like ask your
Yeah.
body to shift and then
Yeah.
merge and you call forward your spirit team and I was like, "Oh, well this I can do because it's very logical to me." Right? And just
Hmm.
letting down your guard and yeah,
So look deep, deep within, because this is deep. This is not a mirror. This
I
is
love that.
deep.
Deep.
mm, yeah, and
Awesome.
I think it also like it touched upon what you were talking about earlier, Trish, about connecting to spirit first, connecting to that soul, that void. And it's like connect to your gifts, bring them to the world. We need it more than ever. We need those more than ever. And look at your triggers, connect to that source, that soul of who you are, and let's rock and roll. Let's bring the
Absolutely.
light. Yeah.
Absolutely. Become this angel. I think when
Mm,
we have a chance to look at ourselves, we do become this earth angel, right? So let it all go.
mm,
It's not worth carrying around.
mm.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
thank you everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.